All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're breaking down one of the most foundational stories ever told, the creation of the world straight from the book of Genesis.
I mean, it's a story of cosmic construction on a truly epic scale. But the big question is, how did it all come together in just 7 days?
Now, for this entire breakdown, we're going to be looking at this story through the lens of one specific source, BibleTimelines.com. We'll be following their analysis and their timeline to see exactly how they piece together these monumental events. Okay, so the first big idea we need to grasp from our source is the framework for this whole thing, a 7-day blueprint. According to our source, the creation story isn't talking about long symbolic eras. Nope, they argue it's 7 literal 24-hour days. Their big piece of evidence? The text keeps repeating that each day had an evening and a morning. For them, that's the key, signaling a real, honest-to-goodness day. And they offer a pretty interesting bit of logic to back this up. Think about it. If a day was actually, say, 1,000 years long, the plants created on day 3 would have died in darkness long before the sun even showed up on day 4. It's a detail that really reinforces their idea of a short, literal time frame. So, with that 24-hour day framework locked in, let's get into the play-by-play of those first 4 days, when the actual heavens and earth were being formed. So here it is, the full blueprint for the week. You can see it's this progressive build, right? It starts with the absolute fundamentals, like light and land, and then it moves toward the complexity of life. Let's walk through each of these steps. Day 1 kicks off with a simple but powerful command. This brand new light was immediately separated from the darkness that was already there, which established the very first cycle of day and night. But wait, this brings up a really good question that the source itself asks. If the sun doesn't get created until day 4, where did this light on day 1 come from? The source speculates that this might have been some kind of unique light source, maybe used to prepare the earth for life, perhaps even to melt what they suggest was a frozen surface. On day 2, it's all about organization. A space, which the text calls the sky or firmament, is created, and its job is to divide the waters, setting up the basic structure of an atmosphere above and the oceans down below. Day 3 is just a massive day of terraforming. Dry land pushes up, the seas take their shape, and then, and this is crucial, all plant life just appears. Our source really makes a point to highlight that this includes 2 very specific trees that are going to be absolutely central to the whole human story. Then on day 4, the cosmic clock is officially set. The sun, moon, and stars pop into existence, and their purpose is spelled out very clearly. They're not just for light, they are there to be timekeepers, marking seasons, days, and years for this new planet. Okay, so the stage is set, the world is built. Now it's time to actually populate the planet. Life explodes onto the scene on day 5. The command is for the waters to literally swarm with creatures, and for the skies to be filled with birds. This is the day of sea life and air life, and they get the very first blessing. Go be fruitful and multiply. Day 6 is another huge one. Land animals appear, but the real climax is the creation of humanity. And our source highlights a major difference here. For pretty much everything else, God just spoke, and it happened. But the text says God personally formed man from the dust. It suggests this totally different, more hands-on, intimate act of creation. And that brings us to day 7. The work is done, creation is complete, God rests. And in doing so, he blesses this day, declares it holy, and basically establishes this rhythm of work and rest right from the get-go. So, with the 7 days done, our source explains that the camera lens of the story pulls in tight. We shift from this huge cosmic overview to the very personal story of the first 2 humans. You know, this is where our source tackles a common question about the Bible's structure. They see Genesis chapter 1 as the wide-angle shot of the entire creation week. Then, chapter 2 zooms in on day 6, giving us a detailed close-up of Adam's creation, the Garden of Eden, and then the creation of Eve. Now, in this perfect garden, Adam and Eve are given just one rule, a single prohibition. They can eat from any tree they want, except for one, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And the consequence for breaking that one rule, it's stated very plainly: death. And this, right here, is the dramatic turning point. This is where everything changes. First, let's just remember what's at stake. The warning from God was crystal clear. No gray area.
Eating the fruit means death. And then comes this. A serpent shows up and offers a direct contradiction, the very first lie we see in the Bible, a complete 180 on what God commanded. And the text says, Eve was convinced. She eats the fruit, and then she gives some to Adam, who was right there with her. Their immediate reaction isn't what you might expect. It's not instant death, but this sudden awareness. They realize they're naked. And for the very first time, they feel shame. This one act of disobedience sets off a chain reaction, a cascade of consequences, a fallout that would change absolutely everything. When they're confronted, nobody takes responsibility. It's the classic blame game. Adam blames Eve and Eve blames the serpent. This table really breaks down the specific curses that come next. The serpent is cursed, Eve is cursed with pain and conflict, and Adam is cursed to struggle on ground that is now cursed itself. So let's just trace this chain of events. It all kicked off with that one deceptive statement from the serpent, the first lie, which planted a seed of doubt. That lie was immediately followed by the first time we ever see blame shifting. Instead of owning up to it, Adam points to Eve, and Eve points to the serpent, kicking off this pattern of deflecting responsibility. And this leads to a really sobering moment. Our source points out that to cover their new shame, God made them clothes from animal skins. Just think about that. For the first time, something had to die. It's the first death on earth, a sacrifice needed to cover their mistake. But the domino effect of sin doesn't just stop with an animal. It keeps escalating, and tragically, it culminates in the first human death, when their very own son, Cain, murders his brother Abel out of pure jealousy. So the timeline from our source gives us this incredibly clear, structured sequence, from a perfect creation to the first sin and all its tragic consequences. But it also leaves us right on the edge of an even bigger mystery, with this one lingering question. If this is how Earth's story began, what or who existed before day one?